Hello, it's a sleepy Sunday here with Patricia O'Connor and Cutie, Frida Darcy. We're going to do a little quick chat right quick. Yesterday I was doing a video and we were talking about shohins and what's up with our shohins and our little shohin hack. And while I was doing the video, I was putting together this little assortment. You may have noticed that I have taken the pines out of it because at this point, this is doing what I want it to do, but it's an experiment. And I don't want to experiment with my pines. Their watering is already finicky enough. For instance, just here's one thing I need to consider. I watered these guys today at about 10 a.m. and as you can see, the akadama around them soaked up the moisture that ran out of them. Oh, and here's something that I forgot to mention yesterday, and this is kind of an important detail. I can't believe that I actually forgot that. Some of you will recall that I was using these as drip trays, and they caused me to have some issues, or potentially some issues. So that was kind of the lead-in that I did, like, oh my God, what in the world would you be doing with cooking utensils again? Well, what I didn't actually get around to mentioning is there's a dozen holes. I drilled a dozen holes in the bottom of this for drainage. And then the akadama is on top of it. Also, I took a small piece of bamboo and cut it into 3 sections this big. And one's about here, one's about here, and one's about here, so that this tray is raised, I don't know if you can see it or not, by that much. In other words, I wanted to make sure that because I drilled flat holes in the bottom of a flat thing and then set it on top of another flat thing, that I wasn't blocking up the drainage holes. I thought that was important. So the idea is that the smaller plants that are in these confined pots can make room to grow and help them out a little bit, which is the great idea for doing that. I was going to expand that to incorporate that as to also help me to keep my pots cooler, and it made me want to go ahead and do that yesterday, as yesterday was so hot. Today was actually about 10 degrees cooler. It was like in the high 60s here today. So I took the pines out of I watered them about 10 minutes after I was done making that video, and then several hours later I looked at that and went, yeah, I'm not going to want those pines to be sitting in that damp substrate. But that's fine for those guys. That's not the alternative to cooling those pots down that I was looking for. However, the weather then broke and that wasn't an issue for right now, so just put them back where they were and wait for the damn table. Wayfair, still waiting on the table. So I'm blankly staring at this Cork Bark Oak. Kind of overcast today and cool, but it's beautiful out. I did what I was threatening to do. I ran a bead of wire, or a strand of wire I should say, around my little cinder blocks, and then wired those 2 little puppies together, and then ran 2 small strands around the octagon shaped pot itself, and then put a little bit of torque on those. Put some vinyl covered rubber over the root, just like the guy who got this tree did on his where he clamped down the roots with his wire. So, yeah, did all of those things. So that's what's been going on there. It was kind of, I thought it was kind of important that I mentioned that that my little tray here does have adequate drainage holes all throughout, and it is elevated off there, so we're not gonna ever have to deal with that as an issue. But then I noticed just like an hour after I watered them, I walked back here and looked at that and I went, what are you doing? Those two trees love a lot of water, and there was two trees that don't like a lot of water. Maybe you should take those two out of there before you cause yourself a problem. I mean, it just seemed like, what the heck? This little guy is doing stuff. This is a little Brussels box tree, and it was overgrown. Not now, and it's not like I really know what I'm going to do with it, but I knew I didn't want to do all that with it, so I cut it back. And also our wind picked up yesterday, which is why it got cooler, I guess. So with this top on the stone redwood, still with all of these spikes, but still taking its time to flush out, I didn't want those to burn on the vine, so I took it down from there to here, but it's still under the light. Also, those were too close to the light. I think they were probably about maybe 6 or 7 inches away from the light, which is too close. Too close. So yeah. Is that okay? Are you okay? Maybe. So our oaks are looking pretty nice. It's just continuing to flush out with more new growth. And the wisteria, look at what this guy's doing. Is it getting ready to do a second round of blooms this late in the year? Are they both doing that? Do I see this one? Its sister tree doing it a little, but not as much. Oh no, it is. It is. Let me see if I can find that on camera. You see those are pushing out. Huh. All right. Thank you. We might have blooms coming here. It's doing something right now. It's doing another round of leaves. I don't know. Maybe our hot and cool spell freak. No, I remember seeing that before. A lot of times they'll come out with the second round of leaves. I had just already decided that they probably wouldn't do that this year, and then lo and behold, there they are. Come flying in at the last minute. My little twin trunk cypress gives me a lot of bonsai tree joy. And my little bougainvillea is going to be a hard red when it comes out with all of its colored leaves. And somebody was mentioning the trident maple. Yeah, it did. It gave me some beautiful colors this year. That was really sweet. So, anyway, that's our little catch up. Speaking of, I guess I can catch us up. And this leader here is already starting to change from purple to kind of it's starting to get darker. When that becomes kind of a golden brown, we'll be out of the woods, I think. Or heck, we're probably already. No, if it were to turn cold right now, which it's not going to, but if it were to, that would freeze. As it stands, we've probably got at least a month. This will be that tall by then. See, hand up here. So yeah. I was looking back last night at some videos done by people who I had learned some tricks from, and I probably should mention this. You can find several people who are copying the steps as I did with this large training pot. But let's think about this for a second. When I got these trees, this tree and this tree were in 1 gallon soft plastic black round training pots. In other words, their roots had already been reduced down to almost paint bucket size, and so that would be very handy. The center one wasn't quite that small. It was in the smallest, like 2 gallon square, like what you would get at Home Depot or Lowe's to mix cement in, these vinyl cement mixing vats. It was in one of those that was probably 2 feet square. So, and I would say it was probably 2 feet, excuse me, by about 6 inches. 6 inches. I think that would be 6 inches. So, so that's where the roots were. And out of all the people that I listen to grow trees, I do know one of them goes on and on about, if you've got a situation where you've got reduced roots, do not basically do what I've done there. That is a wash tub size training pot. And I did this for a reason, and the reason is we've got to heal all of this, and we've got to heal the wedge I cut out of the other one, and we've got to turn all of those sticks that are pointed up into tree and taper. And if I kept everything, their root masses in the size that it was, then to my way of thinking at the time, and I really haven't learned better than that. And I do have a lot to learn, but so far I haven't learned anything that told me different than that. What I have seen other people say was, don't go to some large container if you've already got a tree that's got its roots reduced. But to my way of thinking, we needed to grow a lot of roots because we also needed to grow a lot of mass. And at some point, when I am able to, that's another thing. And this will probably be in here for 3 years. This could probably go in here, could stay in here for 5, maybe even 10. That wouldn't be a good thing, and we don't want that to happen. I'm going to leave this in here for, I'm thinking, about 3 years. Hopefully in about 3 years I will have done as much of that as I can, and at that point it'll be time to pull that out, and the other wise men who have come before me will be right. I will have taken what was a small root mass and expanded it to a large root mass. But this will go in a flat rectangular pot, ultimately, that will probably likely be the same width and the same length. It will only be maybe, that deep. And that's with new substrate and everything. In other words, it'll only be a couple of inches deep as a pot itself. So at some point, say this were removed and we had a root ball that was this large, that huge, that would weigh about as much as the proverbial V8 motor. That would weigh as much as an iron Dodge block. But that's not to say that a person probably couldn't take a straight edge saw and make a chop across there, reduce that down to a half just by cutting straight across, and then tease and untangle and straighten out everything from there, and see what you got. Because a lot of times I see a lot of people, even when they're old school and they comb out that whole big mass of roots, what do they turn around and do? They turn around and cut all that off like a bowl cut right at the bottom anyway. And they could have just basically done that with a carpenter saw. You basically could have just taken a dang wood saw and just cut right across there, or a turkey carver, for God's sakes. For God's sakes, a turkey carver. So that's kind of the general idea. I think I know what I'm doing, but there are people who would say that I've made a mistake by going with a large planter this size, that I've by increasing my root mass, I will be increasing my work on that root mass later. And I say, yeah, I can fix that, I think, with a good saw. What I really need to do is grow a tree right now. So, if you wonder if I know what I'm doing, that I think would be the question. And if you were gonna go from here and take research or get research, that's what's going on in the back of my mind as to how this is gonna work. I think I'm going to order one of those large bonsai carts that everybody who really seems to know what they're doing has. I could wheel one right in there, hopefully lower it down to 2 cinder block level, slide that guy right off, move all those out of the way, build a little ramp here, go right out the door into the parking lot, and that is how I would repot that in a minute. In a minute, that's pat for 3 years from now. Like, one time my boss was asking me why the set went dark, and I knew the generator had just died, and I looked at him in front of God and everybody and said, it's gonna be a minute. So, that's Hollywood that's a wrap. It's gonna be a minute. So, it's a beautiful Sunday. Like and subscribe. I give good tips and also tell you where I got them. And we're growing some cool looking trees. We don't always know what we're doing, but we are figuring it out as we go. And when we know what to ask, we ask and learn, and then I pass that along. So, yeah, it's a killer Sunday, y'all. So, thanks for watching, and enjoy your Sunday.